All right, Math 2201, MLO's 81st installment, talking now about solving quadratic equations graphically. So some sample questions about connecting graphs to the solutions of equations. So let's see what we got here. It says, which graph solves a quadratic equation with solutions of -1 and +2? Well, it's not a hard question to answer. First thing we're going to look at is all of these graphs have some points that are sort of highlighted for us. See, this one's got this guy here and this one here. Got this one and this one. A couple down here and a couple down here. And on all of these graphs, those points are either going to have a coordinate that's a 1 or a 2 or a -1 or a -2. And the task for us becomes, how do we know which one of those is the right thing to give us solutions to an equation that are -1 and +2? Well, you got to remember the rules that we had. And what we said was, it's the x-intercepts on the graph that give us solutions to the equation. So what does that tell you about this point right here and this point right here? Those are y-intercepts. Uh-oh, not going to cut it for us. So we got to throw C and D in the trash. Not going to be the right ones. Now, you might get a little confused with this stuff, because what you might remember is when we were finding x-intercepts and we had factored forms, you had to sort of change the sign and things. We are not looking at equations. There's no equation written on this page anywhere. We just know that these solve quadratic equations. So if x equals -1, we want an x-intercept of -1. And if x equals +2, we want an x-intercept of +2. So the only possibility here has got to be A, not B. So that's what they're trying to throw you off with that one. Tricky multiple choice stuff. It says use the graph shown to determine the solutions to the equation. Now what's funny about this? X squared minus 7x equals 8. And the equation that's written over here is y equals x squared minus 7x minus 8. Well, if you remember when we looked at the instructional video for this one before we got into actually doing some questions, we talked about the forms that we can have for a quadratic equation. And one of the things that we said was they can take the terms and scramble them all up all over the place. So we want to make this equation look more like this one. And it's real simple. It's only one algebraic step. We're just going to take x squared minus 7x and subtract 8 from both sides, like that. And then we have a 0 here. And we can see now that this set equal to 0 would be the way to find the x-intercepts of this function. So we would actually be solving this equation if we found out what those x-intercepts were. We've got one at -1 here, so x equals -1 would be a solution. And we have another at +8. So x equals -1 and +8 are the solutions to this equation. Alrighty, let's see. Quick review of the things we had to know here. We wanted to make sure we knew all about a quadratic equation is any equation that can be written in this form, even if it was jumbled up like the one we just saw. Solutions correspond to the x-intercepts of a quadratic function, and a quadratic equation can be solved by graphing the function and reading the x-intercepts right off the graph. Hope that's helpful. See you in the next installment.